Hello, orphans and romancers. My name is TV Skyn, and welcome back to Boss Designs of Bloodborne, where last time we dealt with the Orphan of Cause, and it was easy. It was pretty casual, just a couple of times, figure out his patterns, bish bash bosh. There we go. Just killed him, just straight up like that. At least I assume that's definitely how Future Skyn decided to edit that episode, so that's what it looks like. But now we're casting about for something else to do, and I have a feeling, I still have not explored everywhere in the Hunter's Nightmare, so I think that's pretty much just where we're going immediately, but...
Oh, good hunter. I can hear German sleeping. On any other night, he'd be restless, but on this night, he sounds so very calm. Perhaps something has eased his suffering.
That would presumably be in reaction to me killing the orphan. And we did kill a nightmare, so I guess German experiences that nightmare. Poor old fool. Okay, let's see. Where do I want to go in the Hunter's Nightmare? Actually, let's just start from the beginning and run through a little bit and see if we can find anything new. Right, so the shortcut here leads to past... That's where the bridge, where you go and you're going, right to Ludwig, right? Yeah. Well, let's just go through from the start. Probably easier to use the... Oh, there's a thing I've missed already. It's an item just hanging out there. But yeah, the sky in here has changed. No more bright yellow moon in the sky. These guys are still murderers, though. And I'll have whatever that is. Oh, the hunter gloves. Thank you. And there's this. I want to see if I can beat one of these big guys now. Okay. But lightning, at least, will let us kill him. Just need to not, do that again. Hello. Okay, do your little bell thing again. Come on. It is shaped like a bell, like the axe. Oh, okay, that persists then. Okay, I see. But you don't. How about you there? Are you alive now? Did I have to kill the orphan cause to get you to... Oh, wait, that's new. Yeah, there wasn't fire in the air the last time I was here. Oh. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I was right. It was a boss. I knew it. I f***ing knew it. From the moment I saw you, mother... Mamma mia! I knew there was more to you. So why are you alive now? Is it because I killed the orphan? A beast with fire powers. That's not great. It is kind of cool that you get to, refight the first boss you fight in the game. Well, the first boss I fought, anyway. Or do you just want to talk, maybe? We could just talk it out. Or not? Oh, it's Laurence, is it? Right, so I have to imagine fire doesn't work so good on him. Oh, it's Laurence. So it's because I've got his skull. Oh, okay. Okay. So your attacks are modified by the fire that you can do. Ow! Yeah, not against the wall, please. This is an inconvenient place to fight you. Okay. So a lot of the same movesets, but he seems like injured almost. Like the original Cleric Beast I fought... Oh! He does do a lot of damage, though. The original Cleric Beast I fought, like, moved much more aggressively and quickly. He has the same nails in his legs, though. So that's Laurence. So that's who it was. I knew there had to be something to you. I knew it. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. And I have been validated. Right, let's get some fire defense going here, shall we? Pardon me. I have a date. Hi. I'm a little better defended against fire now. I'm dead. Doesn't matter. That fight was going terribly, terribly, terribly from the start. Okay, do your big smash. There we go. Pull the thing out. There we go. And then I just run past you, grab my echoes. Whoops. Here we are again. Okay. Yeah, if you keep doing that, I'm completely fine with it. Ah. 3 rolls, not enough to get out of the range of that swipe. And the non-interactive combo. Yeah, I can't dodge sideways through that. And here comes the non-interactive combo. Okay, that one I could have dodged sideways from. Okay. Wish I had a better weapon for this. Or a better gun, rather. It's area denial all the way down with him. Like, it really is just... He can control where you go and how you can go. And that's so powerful in a game that's so mobility focused like Bloodborne. That's like, his flame trail controls your ability to be behind him. His fire auras control your ability to be in front of him. Okay, blow lava at me, please. Because it's about the only opportunity I get to damage you. Yeah, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm alive, barely. Where am I? Where the f am I? Okay. Nope. There we go. There we go. That's enough out of you. That is more than enough out of you. Oh, good lord. Well, that was a bit of a... that was kind of miserable, frankly, but hey, we've eventually managed to beat Laurence, the first Vicar, presumably also the first cleric beast, who seemed to have a little bit of heartburn going on there. Whether there's anything interesting to say about him, I don't know anymore. I spend way too long just kind of looking at his ugly mug and listening to him scream, so that's for Future Skyn to figure out, and me to promptly completely forget about. So take it away, Future Skyn. Well, thank you very much, Past Skyn, and this was a quick episode, huh? The majority of most episodes is made up by exploration, by the finding of the boss and the clues that can be gleaned from its environment. Laurence, on the other hand, well, we found him a while ago. We just needed the right incentive, his skull, to wake him up. I spent about 2 hours fighting Laurence, and I wanted to show more of that in this episode, but the trouble is, well, as you can probably tell from my reaction upon beating him, I did not have any fun fighting Laurence, pretty much at all. It's partly my own fault. I fought him directly after beating the Orphan of Kos, and while I was actually pretty tired, I was running high on victory adrenaline from the Kos fight, and I pushed through when I perhaps shouldn't have. And then, as I began to feel the exhaustion creep in and my mood kind of dropped, I got stubborn and didn't want to end the stream until I'd finally got him. As a consequence, much as I tried to edit word balloons and little jokes into it, the fights just weren't fun to watch, and in the end, I decided to compress them all into a little montage, resulting in probably the shortest episode that this series is going to have. As ever, though, if you want to watch the full 2 hours of me being frustrated at Laurence, that footage is available in full on my second channel. As for this video, well, since we have a little extra time, let's take Laurence, who is sort of a remix of the first boss fight we had, as an opportunity to look back over the game so far and try to draw some ideas together. But first, Laurence himself. He's the first vicar of the Healing Church, succeeded somewhere down the line by Amelia, and so it's appropriate that he's also the first cleric beast. And he is a cleric beast, identical in most ways to the one we fought at the start of the game. The two major visual differences are the injury he has sustained to his head, shearing a horn and quite a bit of his skull clean off, and then he's also on fire. We find him in the Hunter's Nightmare, a nightmare which we have technically ended, or at least we have stopped it from tormenting any more living hunters. It's not 100% clear, but then Soulsborne games never are. The point is, Laurence in here is not Laurence in the real world. Like Maria, who we find dead from suicide until she comes back to life. Like Ludwig, who is so grotesquely transformed. Like the geometry of the place itself, which takes us from swollen, twisted architecture to rivers of blood and corpses, to a pristine chapel, to a research laboratory, to a fishing village in the middle of nowhere. The nightmare is not literal. It operates, as we've discussed, on dream logic. Laurence being on fire, thus, should be understood on some level as metaphor or imagery, I think. And I can think of a few things it could be imagery of. First of all, hunters in the nightmare are dead. They are drawn here by the weight of their guilt. How do cleric beasts die? Well, two ways. They get their heads injured and destroyed with visceral attacks because the head is a weak point, and they get burned. We have seen beasts set on fire in Yharnam. So, that's one explanation. Laurence is aflame and has his head broken in this nightmare death realm because that is how he died. And the trauma and the pain of that death has followed him here, just as Maria's death followed her. Another way to see it is not just as an expression of what happened to him materially, but what happened to him emotionally. Hunters are drawn to the nightmare by guilt, and there are few emotions that burn the human soul quite like shame.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know. You think now to betray me.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
Laurence, like most people, probably had good intentions, or thought he did. Blood administration and the power of the old gods must have seemed like miracles, and Laurence, I suppose, wanted to share. He was seduced by the old blood. He failed his oath to Master Willem, and he failed the people he was trying to protect. For his sins, he became the first cleric beast, seduced by the blood and killed by his own compatriots. So, theory time. The skull that Amelia is praying to in the Grand Cathedral when we see her, I think that is Laurence's skull. First of all, because it shares the wound across the side of the head, and secondly, because touching it gives us a vision from Laurence's past, a vision from his perspective of the oath that he took to Master Willem and the oath that he failed to keep, almost as though that memory was the last thing that went through his mind before he died, almost as though he held on to that memory so obsessively that it burned itself into his very skull. And so now, in the nightmare, he's bound to that very same altar where his skull rests in the waking world, with his corpse propped up in the loving arms of the church as he has become a perverse martyr to a clergy that now longs to become beasts as Laurence once did. And he burns with the shame of it all. We find his human skull on an altar too, by the way, not too dissimilar from the one in the cathedral, which again supports this theory, I think. And from the skull we learn that much as Ludwig's nightmare punishment is to become the kind of screaming monstrosity he once hunted, trampling on the innocents he once protected, Laurence's nightmare is to forever seek his skull, hoping against hope that it will restore his memories, his ability to remember himself as he once was. The nightmare of the beast is to chase echoes of its own humanity and never to find it. And design-wise, it is insult to injury when he falls in half at the latter half of the fight, making him look both more the monster, but also more desperate and pathetic as he claws himself across the floor, dragging his own burning entrails behind him, chasing the shadow of his own lost self. And what happens when he, in his desperation, kills us? We vanish, taking the skull with us, pulling it once again out of his reach. He is a beast. He cannot ask for the skull. He cannot even communicate why he wants it. All he can do is lash out in screaming violence, and it is that very violence that ensures he will always fail. The hunter's nightmare is hell, and it is not very subtle about it. Besides all this, though, Laurence is also an asset flip. He uses a lightly altered version of the Cleric Beast character model with an extra wound, a bit less fur, and set on fire. Now, FromSoft games are no stranger to this. I remember the Demon Fire Sage, I remember the Dragon Riders, and asset flipping is a normal reality of game development. It's not really laziness or anything, it's just a standard practice. In this case, though, there is a point to that asset flip, I think. The Cleric Beast is technically an optional boss, but it's likely to be one of the first bosses that anyone fights in Bloodborne, and here, now, at the endgame DLC, we are presented with a second opportunity to meet one and to try again to understand it. Because the first Cleric Beast we met, although I tried to think a little bit deeper about it than a surface-level reading, was only a beast to me. I had no context for these monsters, and so I understood it as a monster. Laurence, on the other hand, well, he has a name. He has a job title. And at this point, so deep in the game, we basically have no choice but to know him, at least a little. This Cleric Beast is a person, and it reminds us that all the beasts were once people. The White Hunter in Old Yarnum makes the same point to us, and I myself observed that the beasts of that place do seem to have culture, they seem to have religion, they seem to have society. These beasts were once people, and they seem to want to be people again. I read the blood-starved beast as a martyr, sacrificing itself for its community to do just that, and we see that tension also in Gascoigne, a man clinging on to his humanity with both hands, who loses the last anchor he has, his wife, and spirals into beastly oblivion right in front of us. Eileen teaches us this too, first with Henrik, an old friend of Gascoigne's, and then with the other crow hunter. The line between man and beast is frayed at best, and it only gets thinner the deeper you step in blood. So why is this? What is the beast plague, and why does it do this to people? Well, in the canon lore, as I understand it anyway, the old blood was discovered by Byrgenwerth and used to develop blood ministration, and then the healing church spread that practice everywhere, and something in the old blood, a disease or some magical property or a parasite, causes those who take the blood to gradually transform into violent beasts, which must be put down by hunters who, in hunting the beasts, expose themselves to blood and risk transforming in turn. Beneath the surface of any plot, though, lurks the waiting shadow of a theme, and so thematically, what is the blood? And as always with themes, it's a matter of interpretation. There's not going to be any one true answer, and in fact, there can be multiple true answers. The blood can be many things thematically. For me, though, my answer is clear, and if I'm honest, it's not especially clever. The blood is violence. Gascoigne, I think, is the clearest example of this, because we meet him when he is on the very cusp of his beastly transformation. He stands there, swinging his axe over and over and over into the corpse of a villager he has already killed, distracted only by the appearance of a more satisfying target. And as we fight, he tells us this.
What's that smell? The sweet blood. Oh, it sings to me. It's enough to make a man sick.
Violence, our violence, accelerates his transformation. The sweet call of blood grows louder and louder to him until finally it runs him over and the beast comes out. And what's the thing that can pull him back, that can break him out of this addicted rush towards beasthood? The melody of a music box, the love of his family, kindness, softness, gentleness, nurturing, togetherness. These are the antitheses of violence, the antidote to it, which is why the loss of his wife is the thing that unmoors Gascoigne completely. Eileen's story, the hunter's nightmare, Ludwig, the half-beastly villagers prowling the streets looking to kill. It's violence that made them all this way, and it's violence that's corrupting them. And violence begets violence. Each person that becomes a beast enacts violence, forcing hunters into violence to destroy them, and those hunters in turn become beasts to be put down by hunters. It is a cycle, an Ouroboros consuming its own tail forever. And the violence isn't just personal, it's systemic. The source of blood is people, and Yharnam runs on blood. The church runs on blood. And where do you think they get it from? It's not from the few, from the privileged. The sheer volume of blood that is consumed in Yharnam makes it impossible to get it from the few, and so they get it from the many, from the poor, from the ordinary people. And so do we, by the way. We kill these ordinary people and take blood from their corpses regularly. And hey, isn't it interesting that in Upper Yharnam, the fancy part of the town, with the beautiful Victorian Edwardian architecture and fountains and gilded carriages, there really aren't a lot of beasts. In fact, I think we only really find, 3 werewolves and maybe a couple of transformed villagers? But the lower you go in the town, well, the more monstrous people become. And in Old Yharnam, the shabbier place that looks more like a common town than a rich people quarter, you find nothing but beasts. Almost as though the rich people who we hear partying and reveling and hiding in their homes waiting for the hunt to end are somehow less likely to transform into beasts for some reason, less exposed to the taint of blood, less exposed to violence. For the poor, violence is such an inevitable fact of life that the entire lower town can become transformed and build a parallel society for themselves, while the upper classes commission parties of hunters to venture out and destroy them for their beasthood. Which is the other thing about beasthood, of course. To be a beast is to be an other, someone apart from humanity, something less than a person. To be declared inhuman is to be declared a legitimate target of violence. And so the system runs on violence, cycles of violence that self-perpetuate and produce a constant supply of legitimate targets for that violence. The scholars of Byrgenwerth delved into the past and found there old blood, a system of violence that promised them benefit. And they made that system the law, and the old blood became new blood and made beasts of the people who pay with their lives for the privileges of an elite few who, uplifted by the benefit of this system of blood ministration, can sequester themselves away in isolation. In places like the choir or the halls of Byrgenwerth, or among the scholars of Mensis, they wash their hands of the blood plague and tell themselves that they are above it, more pure than the common folk, concerned with higher pursuits of science and the divine. They lie to themselves that the blood only makes monsters of the weak, the poor, the ignorant, the impure, the expendable. But however high we go, whatever hallowed halls we wander, we find that it's monsters all the way up. Monsters making monsters by monstrous means. The real sickness that is afflicting Yharnam is not a plague of tainted blood. That could be solved if you just stopped giving tainted blood to people. It is the system that is built on that tainted blood, on spreading it and keeping it flowing no matter the cost to everyone else. The system is so entrenched in the tainted blood that it is built on that we find Vicar Amelia literally praying to it, venerating this corruption as holy, because the system and its hierarchy and all of the benefits that it confers depends upon it. Now, if I had a certain political persuasion, I might read all of this as an analogy for something or other, but of course Bloodborne is only a video game, and video games are not political. And on this channel, we would certainly never make the mistake of understanding a stratified hierarchical system of exploitation that is literally run on the blood of the poor, which is extracted through violence against the poor, as an apt metaphor for capitalism. Why, sir, I shudder at the very suggestion. I would... Anyway, pulling back from this very broad systemic analysis, what does all of this mean for us as the player? Well, if Bloodborne is dominated by cycles of repeating violence that cause cycles of repeating violence, then it feels to me that the journey of the player is about finding a way to escape these cycles of violence. When you are in this deep, how do you get out? And Bloodborne does draw you in. The rallying mechanic is the most obvious example. When you are hurt, the game encourages you to be aggressive, to respond to violence with more violence. And when you do it right and reclaim all the health you lost with a flurry of attacks, it feels amazing. When I beat Ludwig, underleveled as I was, it was an adrenaline rush. It was a literal high. And several commenters correctly pointed out that that right there is the thrill of the hunt, the sweet call of blood that claimed Gascoigne. The game is designed to make you understand in yourself that feeling, that seduction of the blood, and how hard it can be to put that violence away once you're hooked on it. How many New Game Plus cycles have you started? How hard have you found it to stop? If I'm right, then the end of Bloodborne will be about escaping the cycle that you're trapped in, which in our case would be the cycle of the hunt itself. The game gave us a very small clue about that right at the beginning. Seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. And the word pale blood crops up again and again. The old doctor who inducts us into the hunt mentions it. The note he leaves us mentions it. Gilbert responds to us as if we asked him about it. In Yahargul, a note speaks of a pale blood sky. And then we find this clue in Byrgenwerth. The nameless moon presence beckoned by Laurence and his associates. Pale blood. Which, hey, human beings being transformed into bloodthirsty were-monsters, that whole scene in the lake with Rom where the moon oppressively descends upon us as though it's dominating the entire world. The One Reborn ritual that was clearly trying to summon something from the moon. You know, no spoilers in the comments, please, but, am I gonna have to kill the moon?
Stop mocking me!
Thank you very much for watching another episode of Boss Designs of Bloodborne. The gameplay was on the shorter side this time, but hey, it made room for more of my ridiculous theories. If you enjoyed this, well, you know, like, comment, subscribe, and so on, and if you feel like it, you can support the channel and this series on Patreon, or by using my tip jar or my merchandise store. A $1 direct donation to a YouTuber you like is like the equivalent of 1,000 views on a video, so if there's content out there that you enjoy, consider throwing a tip their way. It helps them a lot more than you might think. Of course, if you're not in a position to be able to do that, or if you just don't want to, don't worry about it. It's more than enough that you've watched my video this far. Anyway, it is time to stream Bloodborne again, and that will happen tomorrow from when this video is uploaded at 8 p.m. Central European Standard Time on this channel. I'm going to return to the Chalice Dungeons, so if you want to jolly cooperate with me, get your hunter ready. So, last bit of self-promotion, I have a shorts channel where I post, well, really short videos, and I have a Let's Play channel where I play more video games. Currently, I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV. If you see my character running around, feel free to say hi. And the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, for which I am doing lots of terrible accents. And that's it. Thank you again for watching. Remember to wear a mask and wash your hands, take whatever vaccines you need to take, and try to act with solidarity towards those who are worse off than yourself.